Okay.
Yeah, actually, real quick, one more time. It looks like it's gonna rub on your collar now too.
Okay. You could clip it to my ear, to my nose. Everybody puts them on their nose now, I see.
Clip it is getting loose.
Can you put it just on the sweater and then it wouldn't?
Yeah, it's on the. Yep. I just don't want to rub it on your collar.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, just mute it on your chin.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning. And again, good morning. Welcome to our mini Lent retreat. It's a treat to welcome Gabe Hurrish, who's back from South Sudan, getting well, dealing with some health things, etc. Spending time with his mom in the Mill Creek area. Does anyone know where Mill Creek is?
No.
Well, besides Leanne. It's just east of Stevens Point, south of Highway 10. And St. Bartholomew Parish is in Mill Creek. They hold their parish picnic usually on my birthday in August. So Gabe has been with Maryknoll Missions. He'll tell his story a little bit, I bet, in his presentation. My main claim to fame with Gabe is that one Sunday, St. Stephen's Parish in Stevens Point was having their parish festival, and I ran into Gabe at Quick Trip, who provided all of our donuts and everything free today. So remember that when you're deciding where to buy donuts or buy gas. I was at Quick Trip in Stevens Point on Division Street and ran into Gabe, and he said he was on his way to St. Stephen's to the picnic. I said, I forgot to buy raffle tickets. I said, I gave him money. I said, would you buy me some raffle tickets? And guess what? I won the grand prize. He's lucky. He's a lucky guy. So welcome, Gabe Hurrish.
Good morning, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, my throat is a little bit bad. I've been dealing with some throat issues, so I'll try to speak slowly and clearly, but I'm sucking on a movements to keep my throat clear. I'm from Stevens Point. I've lived overseas almost half my life, over 32 years. I'm a lot older than I look. I've been in 11 different countries. I've studied 7 different languages. I've had almost every tropical disease that is known. I just was telling Father Tom, 6 months ago, I had a very serious case of typhoid, so I got treated there in South Sudan, and then I got checked when I came home. And so these are just things that happened. I was in different places, different kinds of work, different kinds of situations. Famines, floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, civil wars, violence, HIV, AIDS, meningitis, COVID. Yeah. We all were in COVID. And so by the grace of God, I'm still alive. I probably should be dead actually a couple times. I've been in those situations. But for some reason, God keeps you going. So Father asked me to come here and talk to you today and give you a little bit of just a brief understanding as I understand things. I'm going to start with Bible reading. We're going to go as far as we can. I think around 10 o'clock we'll take a break. And then the second part, I will talk about my experience overseas, what I do and what I have done in South Sudan particularly. At the moment, I'm a Maryknoll lay missioner. Does everybody know Maryknoll? Yeah, they're pretty well known. The priests have that little magazine, and the sisters have been all over the world. So we have the priests, priests and the brothers, the sisters, the lay, and then we also have the what they call the affiliates, the associates. So there are people who don't go overseas, but who support us. So I tell people in my 32 years overseas, they always ask me, what have you learned? And I said, one thing I've learned is that I'm stupid. I don't know much. And, you know, sometimes people know this much, and that's dangerous because the challenge today is to know enough to think you're right, but not enough to know that you're wrong. And as I've traveled around the world, and I come back to the U.S., and my family and friends will say things, and go, no, I've been there, I've seen it. I don't really so much as read the news as live it. So I've actually been in some of these situations you see on ABC, CBS, NBC. And I don't actually read the Bible, I live it. That's one of the things I've learned in my 32 years. I am the tribe of Israel. I am Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, Daniel, Joseph. I am Miriam. I am Susanna. I am Hannah. I am Peter, Paul, James, John. I am Timothy, Barnabas, Priscilla, Mary Magdalene. I'm all of those people, and I'm also Pilate and Herod and Nebuchadnezzar and all these terrible people in the Bible. Because when I am in my sights, I can see those Bible stories evolving right in front of my eyes in many of the places I've been. So this is a gift of the Holy Spirit. Now, how many of you, raise your hand, have been in a desert? How many have been in a desert? Okay, very good. So you have some idea. We're going to do something just to get yourself comfortable, sit comfortably, and I want you to close your eyes. We're going to do a little visualization, and I'm going to ask you to think about yourself in a desert. You know, it's mentioned 24 times in the Bible, deserts. Those were important places there. I want you to be standing there in that desert, and I want you to look to the north, and as you look to the north, all you can see is that yellow sand, that yellowish tan sand. You don't see anything else except blue sky and the sand. Now slowly turn to the east, to your right. And what do you see again? All you see is sand, those waves after waves after waves of sand. Now turn to the south, to your right again. And again, all you see is that sand. And you don't see any trees, you don't see any people, you don't see anything on the horizon. It's just a blue sky and a sandy desert. You turn to your right one last time, you're facing west, and you see that sand again. Now, that's how you see things. Now start thinking about how you feel about those things. Can you feel that hot sun on your face? Can you feel it beating right on the top of your head? Can you feel the sweat starting to drip down your back, down your armpits, down your legs? Can you feel your feet starting to get hot from standing on that sand? Can you start to feel yourself being thirsty, a little bit thirsty? Now let's go a little bit deeper. Can you feel yourself starting to worry a bit? I don't have any water, and there's no way out of this place. If you walk for 4 hours, you would still see the same thing. What are you going to do? How are you going to get out of this situation? How are you going to cope when you are at risk? A desert is unforgiving. There might be a little animal running around, a little lizard. Are you able to eat that? Are you able to catch that and eat it? What are you going to do without water? What are you going to do as you walk through this desert? Okay, open your eyes. Did you feel some anxiety there? Yeah. The mystics say the desert is a place to go to find God. But most of us are afraid of that desert because we're thinking about our physical lives. We're thinking, how are we going to survive? Most of us are thinking, what will we eat? What will we drink? Yeah? But there's another aspect of being in a desert. Can anybody, I'm just going to ask you, can anybody tell me one word that you think of when you think of the desert? One word.
Thirsty.
Thirsty. Hot. Hot is usually the first word I hear all the time.
Peaceful.
Peaceful. That's another. Now that could be a positive thing, right? What did you say? Thirsty. Yeah, we're thirsty in a desert. Another word?
Endless.
Endless. Deserts can be endless. Yes.
Lonesome.
Lonesome. There's another good word right there. It's hot. You're lonesome. You have nobody else around.
The sun.
The sun is beating down on you. Yep. There's no shade. There's nowhere to go.
Desolate.
Desolate, yeah. Desolate, we often, and I think in the Bible it does say desolate, yeah? Desolate is a word they use a lot in the Bible. So what do you have left when you have nothing? And one of the mystics said, you don't know what your faith is until that's all you have left. Now you know if you have faith or not. So a lot of people in the rich countries of the world, they don't know what a desert is, even though they go to visit them. But they don't know what it means to be in a position where you have nothing except God, and you have to rely upon God. So this is a really wonderful group here. I mean, this is Saturday morning. You could be out doing something, shopping, and you decided to come here. You didn't decide on your own accord. That's the Holy Spirit working in you right now. And the Holy Spirit has caused you to come here for this reason. So you think, oh, I decided to go, but no, the Holy Spirit is the one who's moving you. So I myself have been to deserts all over the world. I've been in these pictures you will see are my pictures. Okay, so these are actual, let me just go back there. This is the Sahara Desert right there. So when you're in those things, yes, it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's this and that, but it's also damn dangerous. Because all of a sudden your water's gone, and what are you going to do? And I've had a lot of experiences where your lips are cracked, your eyes are too hurt. I've been in the Kalahari, which is South Sudan. I've been in the Gobi, which is northern China. I've been in the Atacama, which is in Peru, in the mountains, highest desert in the world. So who goes into the desert? Jeepers. Elijah went into the desert. Elisha went into the desert. These prophets all went into the desert. Maybe they were a little crazy, yeah? But they went in the desert. They were called. And we're going to read a little bit here about Jesus' experience in the desert. Jesus wasn't called to the desert. It says in the Bible he was driven into the desert. So this is something very interesting about Jesus. John the Baptist came out of the desert. So I see it says here, out of the desert. So I should have said in and out of the desert. You have to go in order to come out, yeah? So you have to be brave enough to go in there before you come out. I just want to mention, Paul vanished for 3 years after his experience with Jesus. He just couldn't cope with that. Where did he go? Well, if he was in Damascus, and if any of you have ever been to Damascus, you know it's surrounded by desert. There's not a whole lot there. So he probably was somewhere in there. We don't know, but 3 years later, he came out. So we usually associate this with a cleansing, no distractions. You're alone with yourself. So my job today, or my goal today, is not to teach you anything. My goal today is just to make you aware of who you are, aware of your relationship with God, and the rest is up to you. If you get anything out of this presentation today, good for you. It's not me that did it. I'm not going to save your soul. You have to save your own. A lot of people say, Gabe, would you pray for me? Oh, sure, I'll pray for you. Absolutely. It's a pleasure. But I'm not going to save you. You have to save yourself. You have to, at some point, come to God. Yeah? Certainly we believe we can pray for people, and we do pray for people constantly. I want to read something from the Bible now, and you'll be reading this tomorrow, or maybe tonight if you go to Mass. Jesus was led by the Spirit. My Bible is very gentle. He was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, after which he was famished. Have any of you ever been famished? I hear people say, oh, God, I'm starving. Oh, my God, I'm famished. I said, in the United States, you don't have that. You have no idea what it is to be starving. I've seen kids. I've seen people who are starving. I was in Ethiopia in the 1980s when they had the famine. Some of you would remember that. And those people were starving. And they were at the end of life. The tempter approached him and said, if you are the Son of God, command these stones to be transformed into loaves of bread. Jesus answered, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. The devil next took him to the holy city and had him stand on the summit of the temple. And he said to him, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. Now the devil quotes scripture. For it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and with their hands they will raise you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. Jesus said to him, it is also written, you shall not put the Lord your God, to the test. Finally, the devil took him to an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in their splendor. And he said to him, all these I will give give you if you would kneel down and worship me. Jesus said to him in reply, depart from me, Satan. It is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him alone shall you serve. Then the devil departed from him, and suddenly angels came and administered to him. So there's 3 temptations that happened to Jesus in this desert, okay? I'm just gonna see how this goes. Okay, so it's an uninhabited place. This is the road in Sudan, covered with sand. Sand is worse than snow because you can't get it out of the way. You shovel it, it just falls right back in. We actually got stuck on the road. Most people's wilderness is inside of them, in inner isolation. I know people surrounded by people. They're always at bars, they're always dancing, they're always playing games, and yet they're lonely, and very, very lonely. So this is something that I've seen with a lot of wealthy countries. It's a sense of being alone, boringly alone, or suddenly alone, or terrifyingly alone. And this is H.A. Williams. Before the soul comes to perfection, it dwells in the desert, where it can be exercised in the common commandments of the Lord, and where its faith may be tried by temptation. So a lot of us want to get away from temptation. It's the human condition. That's how we are. We're weak, we're fragile, and it's easy for us to accept that in ourselves, but to accept it in other people. I see people who spend their whole lives, there's a certain kind of person whose whole life seems to be in order, whose whole purpose in life is to make it miserable for everyone else around them. I mean, we all know these people, right? They just can't cope with themselves. And you have to feel sorry for a bit of pity for people like that. And then this is the Gobi Desert. This is the last fort on the Chinese walls that they call in China. So this is way in the west. This is way in a remote place. Okay, Jesus had 3 temptations. What were they? First, he said, make the stones into bread. Jesus was famished. He was hungry. Yeah, he was thirsty. And Jesus, that is what we all want to do. I want something now. Let me have it now, God. This is what I want now. I want peace. I want that person out of my life. I want this changed. I want my income to increase. I want health. Most people are at our age, I can see here, are not that healthy anymore. Yeah? So these are things we ask to be right now, to be relevant, yeah, to the situation. The next test, throw yourself off, and you shall be saved by the angels. And Jesus says, you shall not put God to the test. So this is the temptation to be sensational. Everybody wants to be important. Everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody wants to be listened to. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be involved. How many of you are feeling a bit isolated by this new technology that's coming out? It's just, we're overwhelmed with it, aren't we? And we're feeling anxiety, and we're feeling a fear in all this. And they're building these huge database centers now in Wisconsin, not just Wisconsin, the whole country. What's going to happen? And I hear a lot of elderly saying, it won't happen in my lifetime, but it'll happen in my grandchildren's lifetime. And this is true. But we can't say it doesn't bother me because I'm going to be dead. We have to be aware of what's happening now. So one temptation is to be sensational. And look at your, I'm watching this Olympics now, these people all want to win. They all want to be grander. Some of them handle glory very well. But look at your musicians, look at your actors and actresses, look at your sports stars. They go crazy with some of this stuff, The young people with too much. The third temptation, he says, if you bow down to me, I'll give you all these kingdoms. Yeah? And Jesus said, only worship the Lord your God, him alone shall you worship. So this is difficult for us because we do want to control things in our life. I have lived overseas all this time, and one of the things I've learned is I'm not in control of anything. I go before a class thinking I'm going to teach them for the next 45 minutes. Somebody walks in and says, we've got somebody here from CRS, class dismissed. And there goes all my planning and everything. I have an idea what I want to do, and the people there say, no, we do it this way. This is the way we do it here. China was particularly difficult because that's a communist country, and that country rules like this. And so it's difficult sometimes. You see the injustices. You want to be able to just snap your fingers and change it, and you can't. You want to be like Jesus, but that's a temptation. We are not Jesus. So the three temptations, and I always go back to the prayer. We say the Our Father, but then we have the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours. Now, kingdom is not bad. Wealth is not a bad thing. Power is not a bad thing. It can be used very well. Glory is not a bad thing. Fame, that's not a bad thing. You can use it for the good of others. But I know darn few people who can touch these things and not be corrupted. And I felt that in myself. When you're overseas and you're the only white person surrounded by Africans everywhere, everybody just looks at you as if you are some movie star or something. When I was in China, I had people, as I was walking down the street just doing nothing, they would stop and take a picture of me. And I thought to myself, hey, they're disrespecting me. But then I thought, I was taking pictures of kids and all that. I wasn't asking their permission. So it's kind of good payback, for me to see that. Same thing with power and wealth. All these things are not bad, but I know very few people who can touch them and actually do good, not be corrupted by them. Okay, so Jesus was in the desert. Let me just see what my next slide is here. So some of you have been in the desert. You know what it's like. I don't know if you drove through the desert or if you actually walked through the desert. It's a different feeling when you get out of that car that's air conditioned and then you start walking. And it's a real different feeling when that car takes off and leaves you there. So these are the things we have to. So our desert experience, our experience of being in a desert, you don't actually have to be in sand. There's a lot of deserts out there within our own souls, and we're trying to deal with problems. Many of you are here today, which is incredible, but where are the young people? Yeah? We have a few that look somewhat young, but most young people are no longer interested, or they're losing something. There's a lot of conversations about this now, what's going on. And this hurts us. We've given our whole life to the church. We've always been close to God and Jesus, and these other people are not. What can we do? How can we do that? I feel lonely because they're not with me. I feel like my own family doesn't understand me. So I'll tell you a story. It was about 20 years ago. I had been overseas. I came home, was sitting around the table. This is my own brothers and sisters and mother and father and all my relatives and everybody. And everybody's talking. And I suddenly realized I could not understand a word they were saying. They're speaking my language. These are people I grew up with. But not only did I not understand what they were talking about, it was about TV or something, which I never watched. And I couldn't understand. I wasn't interested in what they were talking about. It was just irrelevant to me because I had lived with these very, very poor people. And they were going on and on about wine and about this and that. And I suddenly realized I don't belong here. This is my family and I don't belong here. And then I know I don't belong over there because I'm different when I'm over there. So where do I belong? I don't belong here, I don't belong there. And then you come to that desert experience in your soul, isolated, lonely, yeah, a little bit anxious. What am I going to do? But actually that turned out to be a good experience because now, like I said, I live the Bible. I depend on God more and more. That doesn't mean I won't have pain and suffering. It just means that I now have hope that will always be with me. I think we just stopped the year of the hope. We just finished the year of the hope. Okay, so where do you find strength and encouragement? You know, when your grandkids don't want to be with you, or when your kids are doing something you don't want them to do, how do you keep going when you see the whole world is doing something wrong? Some people will just go into activity. Some people will start to just go to their knees and pray. There's a story, do people know of Saint Bishop Oscar Romero? Have you heard of him? Okay, he was a bishop that had a conversion in El Salvador, and they killed him. They killed him right at the altar. Well, actually, between the podium and the altar, but they killed him right during the Mass. A guy shot him, and he became a saint. But one of the things that happened before that, they had brought all the refugees into the basilica, and they had put them down in the crypt. They were protecting them. Well, the government at that time brought their military and circled the basilica right downtown. There were just military trucks all around. They said, we're going to come in and kill everybody. And so the bishop was there with a bunch of other bishops and priests, and they were trying to figure out, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There's nothing we can do. And they're looking for Bishop Romero. Where is he? Where'd he go? There he was at the altar saying a rosary. He was the only one of all those religious who thought about praying. All the rest of them were trying to figure out political ways of getting out of this mess. So he's known for that. That was part of his mystique, his charisma. So where do you go to find that encouragement? Think about, oh geez. Oh, how embarrassing is that, huh? And it's a flip phone, by the way. And that's exactly what people laugh and say. All I need is to call and receive. I don't need all that other stuff, you know? Certainly it's very helpful. Like this is very helpful, but that's what happens. People get caught up in those things. That's the wealth. That's the power. Look at the power I have in my hand. I can look up anything in the world, so I apologize. So think about that connection between spirit and desert. You don't, like I said before, you don't know what faith is until it's all that's left. And you're looking, I am faced with situations that I cannot deal with. I don't know what to do. I can't feed 20,000 people. I can't. So what can I do? I can feed one. I can feed maybe two. But how do you decide which ones? One of the sisters was telling me she was in a famine area and she had one orange. And they actually had 5 people take off their clothes so they could see which one needed it the most. And then they divided it by 4. They had 5 people. So it was a very difficult situation. Jesus was out there in the desert. Jesus was out there in the desert with the beasts. And the beasts are those things which attack us. I don't know what your addictions are, but everybody's addicted to something. Yeah? Are you addicted to power? Are you addicted to wealth? Are you addicted to a collection of little dolls? Are you addicted to TV? Are you addicted to whatever takes you away from God? This is what your addiction is. And I always say, they talk about, is it fentanyl? Is that the big drug nowadays here? And they talk about heroin and cocaine and all those things. And I say, yes, that is a terrible addiction. It destroys the self. But whoever's addicted to power and glory and wealth, those are addictions that hurt millions. Yeah? Because these people now are taking away. So that's what's happening in the United States, of course, but worldwide as well. There's a greater divide between those who have and those who don't. And so this is a very difficult temptation and anxiety, lust, fear, anger, the 7 deadly sins, yeah? There's a lot of deadly sins there. Okay, now let me see. So, So now I'm going to talk about one more story in the Bible. During Lent, we're going to read several stories, and there's 3 of them in John that you don't find anywhere else. One is the Samaritan woman at the well. One is the blind man, born blind, and one is the raising of Lazarus. Okay, so I'll see how far I can get. But I love this story right here. It's one of my favorite stories. First of all, I don't know why, but I'm drawn, don't take me wrong on this, I'm drawn to women in the Bible. Yeah? Women just show some kind of real strength there that somehow resonates with me. And overseas, I try to target women who are widows, or the man has left them, or they are widows, they have children, and they're trying to raise money for their families. And you'll see a slide of this later. So I try to help them out. So this woman here who comes, we don't know her name. She's called the Samaritan woman. Now, let me just think. Is there a word in our culture that we don't ever want to say? There are certain words we say, don't say those words. Don't say those words. Yeah, taboos. So in the Bible, you will notice that many of the people Jesus encounters, they can't even say the name of a Samaritan. They can't say the Samaritan. It's so bad. They hate them so much, and yet they have a lot in common because they came from, it's a historical thing, yeah? So passing through Samaria was actually a pretty bad idea for Jews in those days. They didn't like each other. Probably like Democrats and Republicans. You wouldn't walk through somebody else's land shouting something. So Jesus comes through here and he's thirsty. It's a dry area, of course. So he sits down at that well. What surprises me is that his disciples left him alone. No one stayed with him. You know, if you got 4 people, you leave one with Jesus and 3 go off. Why did all of them go? Because they were afraid. They wanted a big crowd with them because they're going to go buy some food or whatever they're going to get. So Jesus stays by himself at the well. Now, how many of you, some of you maybe, grew up with a well? Did any of you grow up with a well? Yeah, so I did too, on the farm, right? And now we've got piped water. It's so easy, right? And I'll tell you, I was just telling my niece, my young niece, I cannot drink a glass of water without thanking God. It's just not possible anymore. I've been in so many situations where there was no water, or you had to walk and go get that water and come back. It's just not a real easy overseas in many of the places I've been. So this woman comes. Do you know when those of you who have those of you who have had a well? When do you get the water? It's not in the house. You have to go out and pump it or something, right? When do you go? In the morning, or maybe in the evening, yeah? But you don't go in the middle of the day. Why? It's hot. It's bloody hot. And plus, most people are, you have to have, if you're a woman, you have to get the food ready and all those things in the house. So it's very surprising this woman is coming at noon. Midday. It says she comes at midday, right? Let me just see here. I'm just going to put the words up now. I hate to put slides up like this, but this is all I can do. Okay, near the plot of land that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. See, they're always trying to connect this to the history. And I think one of the problems in the United States is we tend to forget history. We tend to forget what happened 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and we just repeat it seems like. We repeat the same mistakes. Jesus was tired. Imagine the Son of Man tired. Yeah? I imagine all of you are tired today. You're here. But it'll be a long day. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, give me a drink. Jesus breaks like 3 rules right here. Number 1, a man never addresses a woman alone. Never. And I've had this issue myself. Now, I'm a foreigner. I get away with a lot of crap. Yeah? If I go up to a woman and touch her, nobody says a word. In a Muslim culture, as a man, you don't touch them. Do you remember President Trump was with the sheikh from Saudi Arabia? And do you remember he reached over and grabbed his hand and shook it like this? Oh my God. I looked at that and said, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that. No one else in the room thought that was a bad thing because no one's ever been with Muslims before. So this is what we learn overseas, and yet they are very gracious to us. Yeah, you didn't see that guy say, "Get away from me." He didn't do that. He just smiled and let it go. And so you learn over time what to do. You never extend your left hand. Things like this. Yeah? Okay, so he says, "Give me a drink." He's asking her for something. He has no right to do that. Yeah? She's a stranger. He shouldn't be doing that. He's talking to her alone, and she knows it. She knows it for sure. What does she say? How can you, a Jew, ask me, a Samaritan woman, for a drink? See? She knew that rule, and yet Jesus is breaking it. Jesus is kind of a radical kind of guy. Yeah? He does things he's not supposed to do. So Jesus says, if you knew the gift of God and who is saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would give you living water. Now imagine this woman is there at noon. Something's wrong with this woman. Something's got to be wrong. Why would a woman come alone? That's another thing. Women never went out alone. Why would she come to that well at midday when it's the hottest? Could it be that she didn't want to be with all the rest of the women, or they weren't allowing her to come at that time? Could it be because later Jesus says you've had all these men, right? So maybe she was an outcast. Maybe she was somebody who was no longer accepted in the community, and she had to do it this way. Yeah? Jesus knew that right away. So he says to her, if you knew who was asking, the woman is desperate. She's probably been praying and praying for decades, trying to get some friends or something. How many of us feel lonely like that, whether it's our own fault or not? This woman was probably desperate for help. And she says, you don't have a bucket. She's thinking of physical ways, yeah? You don't have a bucket, the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who was here? Jesus said to her, whoever drinks this water will be thirsty, but whoever drinks the water I give will never thirst again. That sounds like a pretty good deal, right? Yeah, but it's maybe not so easy in the actual implementation of it. So the woman is saying, give me this water. So I'm enough. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be like this anymore. So the woman is now coming to faith slowly. Go call your husband. Why did Jesus, out of the blue, huh? Go call your husband. First of all, Jesus knows he shouldn't be alone with that woman. He knows she shouldn't be out alone. And he says, go get your husband, because that's the rule. You know, they had all these rules. You got to have your husband there. Where is he? And the woman, of course, says, I don't. Oh. Is that the next one? Answer said, I do not have a husband. Jesus says, you're right. Yeah, you don't. In fact, the one you have now is not your husband. What you have said is true. You had 5 husbands before. Uh-oh, that woman's in trouble again. Huh? Oh my gosh. Now, we don't know the situation. We could extrapolate it. We could make big guesses and everything, but we don't know. Is she a prostitute? Is she just is she being used by men? One thing that really gets me angry overseas and probably sometimes in other countries, the woman is raped overseas. She's the one who's at fault. And that bothers the heck out of me. And it's unfortunate, but all over the world. So these are difficult things for me to witness sometimes. They always blame the woman, always. And Jesus isn't blaming her. He's just saying, go get him. Oh, yeah, he said, that's right, if you don't have this and this. So Jesus had this ability to see things that the rest of us could not see. So he's really putting this woman through the ringer now, yeah? And she's starting to wonder what is going on here. She said, our ancestors, I see you're a prophet. Yeah, prophets could tell all these things, right? But actually, prophets speak God's word. That's what a prophet does. A lot of people want to be the ones that say all these special words, but in fact, that's not what a prophet is. In fact, all of you are prophets. Yeah? You've had children, I would imagine, and you have told your children how to live, and that's a prophet. You have tried to lead them to God. Believe me, woman, the hour is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. So the Samaritans, because of a historical reason, which fathers probably know very well, the Samaritans were not allowed in Jerusalem, and the temple was the place of worship. And now they worship in their own places. And Jesus said, you're not going to worship here or there. And you're going to worship, he says, we worship what we understand. Salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now here when the worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. And indeed, the Father seeks such people to worship him. This is actually one of my favorite lines in the Bible. And I've seen this. I've seen Muslims who are better Christians than I am. I've seen Jews. They call them falasha in Ethiopia, and they are better than I am. I've seen Hindus, Buddhists who are better than I am. I've seen people who are atheists who are helping the poor more than I am. And I'm asking my question to myself, is that spirit and truth? Are they okay? Jesus, help me here, because I don't know what to do. Okay? But this is what Jesus says to this woman. And now the woman changes. Now this woman suddenly, the woman said, I know that the Messiah is coming. See, they were still Jewish. They understood that the Messiah was coming. He comes, he will tell us everything. Jesus said to her, I am the one speaking with you. Now his disciples come back. And the Bible is very gentle with the disciples sometimes. Yeah? They were amazed that he was talking with a woman. But no one dares challenge. How many of you would challenge Father here if he said something? Huh? Okay, now this woman.
In fact, almost all of them
And they're still here. Look at that. Something's working still. They're worshiping in spirit and truth. I always ask myself, I have my own family members that have fallen away from the church. And I said, they're angry at the institutional church. They're not really angry at God. And so they still have that spirit. So you pray for them. You just hope. You pray for God's revelation. She left her water jar. That's very important. This woman, to leave your water jar, God, that's like leaving your Mercedes-Benz out there and going somewhere. Yeah? And she left it. So that means she was really moved, really touched. She was now delirious with whatever she was going to tell all the other people in the town. Come and see a man who told me everything I have done. Well, it didn't sound like she said everything, but she was so overwhelmed with this experience. Could he possibly be the Messiah? They come out, and the disciples are telling him to eat, and he's saying, I've got food you don't know. So the disciples say, well, what? Could someone have brought him something? Another taboo. You don't take food from Samaritans, So Jesus said, my food is something else. And then he goes on to talk about 4 months of harvest. Let's see here. Where does he goes off on this, the harvest is there. So a lot of people ask me, Gabe, what have you done? What have you done? I said, all I'm doing in my 32 years is planting seeds. I don't harvest. I'm not a farmer. I just plant. If God allows me to see the full cycle of what I've done and what happens 20 years down the road, that's a blessing. Yeah, it's the same with your children. You're asked to raise them, and at 18, they're off on their own. And you're lucky, and you're blessed, and you're graced if they turn out all right. Yeah, but it all comes and goes. So I just plant seeds. I don't know what's going to happen with Miriam. Many of the Samaritans in that town began to believe in him. Can you imagine? They believe in him. They began to believe in him. Where is that? Yeah. And to believe in him because of the word of the woman. A woman's testimony was not allowed in court. And yet they believe this woman. Something happened there that is beyond our conception. This woman who was an outcast has suddenly become the prophet, the prophetess. She's the one leading them. This is amazing. How could Jesus do that with just a few words? I mean, common words is at that, right? So this man, Jesus, was really, really something. And have you ever met anybody that you just met and you're like, holy cow, that person, I like that person. I want to be there. I want to be like that person. I want to do what that person's doing. That's what Jesus was. And so I often think to myself, gosh, he really must have had something there to get this woman and all these Samaritans. And then he says, the Samaritans came to him. They invited him to stay with them. And he stayed there for 2 days. Wow, the disciples must have been going out in their wits, because this was all taboo for the Jews. This must have been a tremendous challenge for those disciples. And I have met all those kind of challenges. I don't want to do certain things, and I'm just caught in the flow of the river, and I cannot stop it. And here it comes, and I end up in situations I don't want to be in, but God understands. God has a reason for those sorts of things. Any questions or comments? I think we might just take a little break here. Is that all right? Okay, well, Father, how much would we want here?
I'll put another plug for Quick Trip. We've got great Quick Trip donuts over there. Also, and thanks to Linda and Sue for their help in facilitating our reception this morning. We also have coffee from the Mission of San Lucas Tolaman in Guatemala, where our parishioners visited last month. One of the highlights of the day was in the morning to get up and to go to the main dining hall, the biblioteca, which it wasn't really a library, but that's what they called it, and have coffee. And so the coffee that you're enjoying is also, the decaf is just Folgers or something, right? But the regular coffee is from the mission in San Lucas Tolaman. The coffee is for sale. It's $15 a pound, which includes a donation to the mission. If you want to pay with a 20 and turn the rest over, that will go to the mission as well. So just spend some time with one another and
Just a quick note. I put missioners at San Lucas Tolaman. Is the Minnesota priest still there? He's probably passed.
Father Greg Schaefer has deceased, but actually the way I became familiar with the mission of San Lucas Tolaman was my really connection with Maryknoll. They offered a pilgrimage for priests and deacons and a bishop to visit the shrines of the Central American martyrs. And that included a stop in San Lucas Tolaman, because all the Maryknoll priests knew Father Greg.
Yeah,
And they wanted to stop and spend time with him.
You talk about a guy that had an open spirit. Holy
And
cow.
we'll talk about Father Greg over the next few months as well. So help yourself to coffee and donuts, Linda.
Can I make a comment? The coffee that you would make at home with this would probably be better than what I do.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Church coffee is never quite as good as our.